Jerry back with that Theatrically Jerry, and you're probably asking yourself, why am I doing a review in portrait mode instead of landscape mode? Well, it's due to the fact that this light fixture is massive and will not fit in landscape mode. This is VSHOW's S711 Buddha. We are going to be doing an in-depth review on this light fixture. This is the largest light fixture I currently have on my rig. It is a 600 watt beam, spot, wash, and frame light. So this light fixture is 28.5 inches tall. That's pretty tall for a light fixture. It's 14.8 inches wide, so it's designed for space saving on the bottom, and it's also only 10.43 inches deep. So it's not very wide or deep, it's just extremely tall. And of course, with that comes weight, and it is 59.52 pounds. So this is an extremely heavy light fixture. It's also a very large light fixture. We're going to go ahead and do a in-depth review on VSHOW's S711 Buddha. So let's go ahead and take a look at everything this light fixture has to offer. Alright guys, so we're going to have to do most, if not all of this video in portrait mode, simply because this light fixture is way too large to squeeze into landscape mode. I'm okay with that. I don't think there's any rules on what orientation your review videos need to be in, so we're going to do this as much as I can in portrait mode, and maybe we'll switch to landscape mode in between that. But anyways, this is going to be a very in-depth review on this light fixture, so let's get ready to review this. VSHOW's S711 Buddha is a 600 watt LED engine 4-in-1, and what that means is that there are 4 things it can do in one light fixture. In this case, this can do a beam, spot, wash, and frame. And framing is a really unique thing that they have brought to moving headlight fixtures. I actually love the option of framing almost as much as I love the option of the iris, which is also, believe it or not, built into this light fixture. We will go over that later. It consumes 800 watts total on the power supply, so keep that in mind. This thing is power hungry. It doesn't consume the most power I've ever seen in a light fixture, but it does consume quite a bit. The LED light in this light fixture is rated for 20,000 hours, and that's the lifetime expectancy of the LED. Of course, that's going to vary depending on temperature as well as humidity and operating conditions. The color temperature is base at 8500K, so this is a cold white LED light engine. You do have linear CTO color temperature adjustment. We will go over that later. The standard coloring render index is 70. It can go up to 90 with its high color rendering index filter that's built into the light fixture. The diameter of the optics here, let's take a look at the optics, because the optics is very important in a moving headlight fixture. It's where all of the light is going to leave your actual moving head, so it's very important that we look at it. This is a 120 millimeter glass optics here on the lens. There is one color wheel that's built in. It has 5 fixed colors that can be rotated in both directions and can do rainbow, of course. There is a fixed Gobo wheel that contains 8 fixed gobos. There's of course a rotating Gobo wheel, so that's one rotating Gobo wheel, and it has 7 glass gobos built into it. The patterns can be replaced on this. They can be replaced with a simple slot and lock system. If you haven't already watched, I do have a video on how to replace slot and lock gobos, so you can go ahead and check that out. Prisms, I was a little disappointed to know that it only has one prism. It's a 4 prism, so a quad prism, and the angle is at 14 degrees. The prism can be rotated in both directions. Again, we're going to check out all of this later on in the review. Something that I found interesting with this light is it has two independent frost filters. So instead of giving you an extra prism, they gave you an extra frost. So you have a mild frost and a moderate frost, and we're going to look at that and see what the difference is. It's actually pretty cool. Okay, so for framing, they're calling it a cutting system on this light fixture. There is 4 gratings to achieve the cutting. So it's basically a frame. It's going to have a left, a right, a top, and a bottom. And what that does is it's going to frame your light so that you can create perfectly square lights. You can cut off some light for your gobos to make a different or interesting look to your gobos. And you can do a lot of other effects with the framing system built into this. The entire cutting system, if you're wondering, it can be rotated 90 degrees. I've seen a lot that can do 180. And a few that can do 360 degrees. So 90 degrees isn't that great, but it's not that bad either. Some other interesting things about this light fixture is that it can do a 0 to 100% dimming. This is of course 16-bit. I was going to say linear, but it can do several other dimming curves as well. There are 4 dimming modes built into this light fixture, such as S-curve, and also logarithmic, which is basically the computer deciding how it's going to dim your light. I prefer linear dimming, so I haven't really played around with the other ones. Something that's also interesting is that when you start getting up in this price point for a light fixture or a professional light fixture, you're going to get some options you've probably never seen before, and in this case we have an adjustable refresh rate on the LED light engine. So what that means is it can adjust its refresh to match HD camera shootings as well as videographers. You can match with them, and that will allow you to get a flicker-free light out of this light fixture. CMYK channels. So this light fixture has 39 at its maximum and 34 at its minimum. There are 3 profiles built into this light fixture, and that would be your 34 channel as well as a 35, which is not a big difference, or a 39 channel. So there are 3 profiles built into this light fixture. The S711 Buddha has DMX512 3-pin as standard. You can also get an ArtNet or an EtherCon connection if you prefer. You would just have to ask the builder, or you can also get a 5-pin. So if you ask VSHOW, they can match that for you. The S711 Buddha is capable of master and slave, which is pretty standard. RDM, ArtNet is optional, like I stated. It does have an electronic autofocus built into it. There is a strobe built in, which is pretty standard for a moving headlight fixture. The control panel, VSHOW again is saying it's touchscreen. The control panel is not touchscreen, just the buttons are. So the screen isn't, the buttons are. This is another glass pane with silk screen over the glass, and there is a magnetic spring behind each one of these buttons, and it can detect the littlest bit of movement, so movement from your finger, and that is what makes it a touch system, not that it's a touch screen. So I wanted to point that out to you guys. It does have a couple safety features. I did see a couple when I opened up the casing. One of them is built-in overheat protection. It does have several temperature probes in it, and it monitors the temperature of the light fixture, and it will shut off if it reaches a certain temperature. It also uses the temperature probes for the variable speed fan that's built into the S711 Buddha, and there's actually several variable speed fans built in. Something that I found interesting about this light fixture, and we will go more in depth on it as well, is that it has a built-in lithium-ion battery. And you might be asking yourself, why would you need a battery built into this light fixture? Well, that is to allow you to program this light without it actually being plugged in. So without this being plugged into a power source, you can actually set your DMX address, or you can also do your manual controls on this light fixture, or just set preferred parameters of this light fixture, and you don't have to do it with it plugged in. So I love that idea. That's something I haven't seen in a light fixture yet. The x-axis is capable of 540 degrees, and the y is capable of 270 degrees. So your x-axis is going to be able to do 540 degrees of rotation, and your y-axis is going to be able to do 270, so just back and forth. That's pretty standard for a moving headlight. Your pan and tilt on this is also 16-bit, so you don't have to worry about your scanning. The precision is going to be awesome on this. There's no deviation due to the magnetic coating motors that are built into this light fixture. It's extremely accurate in its movement. Speaking of motors, there is a 3-phase brand motor, and if you've watched my review on the S712 or the S716, you'll know that the brand motors are preferred by VSHOW, and I actually really like them as well. They're very quiet motors, and they're very powerful motors, and they're also very accurate motors. So brand, and that's spelled SY, is a very good brand of motors that's available overseas. Something else that VSHOW includes with all of their light fixtures are these foldable C-clamps that are underneath the light itself. What I love about these is they save a lot of time and effort because they simply fold up into the light when you're not using them, and when you want to use them, they fold out and you can hang them on your truss system because they are C-clamps. Like I said, they do save a lot of time and effort, and time is money, so I love saving time. And I also love that VSHOW includes them with all of their moving heads. So the S711 is no exception. They also include them on the S712 as well as the S716. So thank you guys for including the foldable C-clamps. I love them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the design of the S711 Buddha. So VSHOW puts a lot of thought into the design of their light fixtures, and they look as great as they operate. So we have this really nice big glass optics here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this. We have your air intake, and the air intake grills are honeycomb pattern, so it's pretty modern looking. I like the look of it. Behind the air intake is removable filters. The dust filters are capable of being washed and re-put back inside of the light fixture. So this is going to keep a lot of dust out of this thing. I love that they included the dust filters with these light fixtures because they didn't include them with the S712 or S716. And the arms have a really neat design to them as well. They have the VSHOW logo here. We also have some more exhaust vents down below. The back is pretty boring, as you can see. They did include a tilt lock here, but they didn't include a pan, which at this price point, this light fixture should have had both a pan and a tilt lock. However, they just included a tilt lock, but that's fine. So the main exhaust has the same honeycomb design as the air intake grill that we just looked at. There are no filters built in here because there are dual variable speed fans behind it, and they are responsible for exhausting the heat. So they're not actually taking in air, they're spitting the air out. So that's why they don't have a air filter built into them like the ones up here do. So these have two air filters, and then on the other side is 2 more air filters, so there's 2 here. The back of VSHOW's S711 Buddha has a pretty typical layout, minus the fact that it does in fact have both 5 and 3-pin DMX in and out here. So with more professional light fixtures, you're going to get an option of 5-pin DMX as well as 3-pin DMX. We also have a power in, but if you notice, we don't have a power out, so you can't chain these together because of how much power they consume. This consumes 800 watts of power, so it needs its own dedicated supply here. We have a fuse, and this is a 250 volt AC, and it is a 10 amp fuse. So this is going to work for 110 volts as well. It's a variable power supply built in. Next to it is a rather large on and off rocker switch. So I appreciate that they include larger sized rocker switches because they're easy to find in the dark. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on over here, because I really haven't seen anything like this on a light fixture before. On the back of VSHOW's S711 Buddha, there is 2 things that stand out to me. One is this battery display. Now, like I was describing earlier, this has a built-in lithium-ion battery, and if you hold this button down here, it's going to turn on just the display, and it's going to allow you to set the parameters of this light fixture without having to have it plugged into a power supply. So I think that's pretty cool that they included that. Right below it is a standard USB 2.0 port, and this is going to allow you to upgrade the firmware for this mover. I haven't received any firmware upgrades from VSHOW yet. I do not know if they even have any for this light. I could also email them and get that information for you guys, but I don't really think it needs a firmware upgrade right now, and if it does, it's going to be for minor things on the user interface menu. Speaking of the user interface menu, let's go ahead and turn this thing on so we can go through all of the stuff on the user interface. Alright, let's go ahead and turn this on so we can see the user interface as well as the movement of VSHOW's S711 Buddha. We have our loading screen here. The light's currently going through a bunch of pre-built programs to check on all of the motors as well as calibration of the light. This does this every time the light fixture is turned on. I'm going to go ahead and go over the user interface with you guys. So this is also a touch screen, and I use quotations because it's technically not a touch screen in the fact that you can touch the screen. However, these buttons are silk screened onto a piece of glass, and they are touch sensitive buttons, so they don't actually press in, they're just touch sensitive. So I wanted to get that out there for you guys. This is not a touch screen light fixture. Okay. Ironically too, the screen on VSHOW's most expensive light fixture is also the smallest screen I've seen on one of VSHOW's light fixtures. So not only is this light fixture the largest light fixture they have, this screen is the smallest screen that they probably have. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the user interface, all of the menus, how you operate this, and how you navigate all of the menu settings. So we have a pretty typical layout for the menu buttons. On the left side of the LCD screen is your menu and enter button, and on the right side here is your up and your down button. So you're going to use these 4 buttons to navigate the user interface on the S711 Buddha by VSHOW. So the first thing you're going to notice is the screen's black, so we're going to hit enter here. Now this is going to be your main screen. It's going to tell you your DMX mode that you're in. It's going to tell you the DMX mode that you're in. I'm currently in DMX mode 34, meaning I'm running the 34 channel DMX mode. Below that, it's going to tell you your DMX address. So right now I'm set to 001. Below that is your LED temperature, so 24 degrees Celsius. You can actually change this to Fahrenheit in the menu. I'll show you guys that a little later on. So the DMX range is going to tell you how many channels this light's going to occupy. So right now it's going from 001 to 034. I'm also going to show you guys how to turn off this blinking screen. It just defaults to this when you're not using it. Alright, so when you do hit menu, you're going to be greeted with the main menu. The first menu under main menu is DMX setup. When you hit that, you're going to DMX address and channel mode. My DMX address is currently set to 1. You can go all the way to 512. That's one universe. If you go down, you can set channel mode. Right now I'm in 34. You can set it to 25 or 29. I prefer the most channels, so 34 is good for me. We're going to go ahead and go back, so let's hit menu again. That's going to take us back. Menu is also your back button. Down is personality, so we have pan inverse. That's going to allow you to invert your pan and your tilt. The tilt's right below it. We have tilt feedback. You could turn it on or off. I like to leave it on. Your dimmer curve, I love that VSHOW includes this. You can select your dimmer curve, which is going to allow you to give yourself a more fine control of your dimmer channel. So right now I have it set to square law, which I don't really care for. There's also inverted square law, S curve, or linear. I prefer linear. That's what you're going to find on most light fixtures, so I would prefer it to match those. Dimmer frequency is something you're going to get offered on more expensive light fixtures. So dimmer frequency is going to allow you to set the hertz of the 600 watt LED light engine on this fixture. And what that's going to do is it's going to be friendly to cameras and camcorders. So photographers and videographers prefer this. It's going to allow the light to not strobe under those conditions. You do have to select the appropriate hertz, and the hertz is the frequency of the LED light source. So there's 12, 24, 100, 4,000, 6,000, and back to 25,000. So we have 1,200, 2,400, 4,000, 6,000, and the highest at 25,000. Below dimmer frequency is dimmer speed. So the dimmer speed is going to allow you to set it to fast or slow. What that's going to do is allow you to go from 0 to 100% either fast or slow, depending on how you would like to dim or bring up your dimmer. You can set this on this menu here. I'm just going to leave it at its default because it really doesn't matter to me. I can also set dimmer speed on my console, so that's just an added thing, but not very useful. There's no data mode. So no data mode means how do you want this light to operate when it doesn't receive a DMX signal? Do you want it to black out to where nothing works on it and it stays completely dark and also brings all of your DMX values back to 0 or their default? Or do you want to use hold? And what hold's going to do is it's going to hold all of your DMX values at where they were before it lost its signal. Some people prefer that. I just prefer blackout. If I'm going to lose my DMX signal, it's probably going to be for a good reason, and I would like my fixtures to be blacked out so I know that I've lost signal. But if you're in the middle of a show, like in theater, you're going to want to do the hold and have it hold at its last values until you can figure out why you lost control. Right below that is fan mode. So there's regular. They spelled it regulate. I'm not sure why. There's also theater mode, full, and regular is going to just be your regular variable speed fan on this. It's for people that aren't too concerned about sound. I'm going to tell you the fans on this are not very loud. They're actually pretty quiet. But there are people that are very particular about fan sounds. So they've included theater mode, and theater mode is going to make the fan even quieter, so you're not going to hear it at all. And then full is for people, like I said, that don't care and they're running this thing at full intensity for hours on end. You can set it to full. It's going to bring the variable speed fan up to its highest setting. So you are going to get a little more noise with it. But like I said, the fan's not loud to begin with. But I do love that they've included this option. I would love to see it on more light fixtures. The next menu is display. We have display rotate. What that's going to do is just flip the LCD display 180 degrees. I prefer to set this to auto, meaning if I flip the light fixture upside down, the screen's going to flip with it. Display intensity is the next menu setting. So display intensity is at 100%. That means how bright this little LCD display is going to be. I like to keep it at its default value, but you can bring it down to 1. The default value is fine for me though. Temperature unit, as I stated earlier, Celsius or Fahrenheit. I'm going to set it to Fahrenheit. I would actually like to see a lot more manufacturers include this because we do use Fahrenheit here in the US, but it's not a big deal to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Language. You have English and Chinese. That's pretty typical for a light fixture layout. I have it set to English. The next main display is going to be your power switch. So power switch, yes or no. You can set this to no, and it's going to just turn the power off to your motors, or you can set this to yes, and it will resume power to them. So that's all of the submenus under personality. There's quite a few of them. The next main menu is your motor reset. And so what that means is you can reset specific motors back to their defaults. Your pan and tilt, your gobos, your framing module, your zoom module, or all of your motors. And when you hit enter, it's going to reset them for you. The next main menu is fixture test, and this is basically for the manufacturers. You can test all or test an effect with this fixture just to make sure it's working appropriately. Manual control is the next main menu. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to set values here, and the values are going to correspond to the light fixture. Basically what this does is it allows you to go through all your DMX channels and set them on the light fixture. You don't actually need a controller for that. The next main menu is DMX Live, and that means exactly what it sounds like. It's going to show you live what values your DMX channels are set to. They're all currently set to 0 because I do not have a controller hooked up to this. Service, you're going to enter a passcode. This is mainly for the factory, and you can service this light fixture. They don't give you the passcode, but if you ask them, they will. Service. The next menu is information. This is another main menu. And that's going to give you your power on time. Currently it's been on for 2 hours. That's total. This is going to give you your LED hours, 1 hour. Your software version. You can actually scroll down too, but mainly that's just for the factory. Your RDM UID. So that's going to show up when you RDM this, and that's going to tell you that it's this light fixture specifically. Temperatures, you can see the temperature of the LEDs at 89 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not actually very hot right now. So that is actually all of the main menus and submenus that are included with the S711 Buddha by VSHOW. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at some functions of the S711 Buddha by VSHOW. The first thing I want to show you guys is the dimmer, because it is a 16-bit dimmer, and I was going to say linear, but it does have other curves such as S-curve and logarithmic and square. So I prefer linear, so for this test we're just going to do linear because that's the most popular dimming curve, and we're going to see how smooth the 16-bit dimmer is. So right now it's at 4%. We're going to drop it to 0. And we're going to bring it all the way up to 100%. And we're going to bring it back down to 0. So we're going to go ahead and bring the dimmer up to 100%. And then we're going to go ahead and drop it back down to 0. This is going to give you guys an idea of how smooth the dimmer is on this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the colors that are built into the S711 Buddha. So this does have a color wheel as well as CMYK color mixing. The color wheel has red, green, magenta, orange, blue, CTO, your white. This also has a built-in CTO filter as well as a Cree filter. So the Cree is the very last part of this Gobo wheel. It's going to go from its 70 raw to its 90. So we have 70 and 90. And then we can also do half colors, and the half colors are super smooth on this. Look at that. You can't even see a line in between the green and the red. Green and magenta. Orange and magenta. Orange and blue. Blue and white. Now this is the scrolling part of the color wheel, so you can do a rainbow type scroll, and you can also do variable speed on it. Let's take a look at CTO. Let's go ahead and take a look at the CTO function. So CTO stands for color temperature orange. I prefer to call it CTC, which is color temperature correction. However, it's going to correct the temperature of the LED light engine. If you remember earlier, it's at 8500K, which is a cool white. That's where we're at right now. We can also make it a warm white by using CTO. So I'm just going to scroll all the way up to 100% on CTO. Now we have a nice flattering orange tone to the light instead of a cool white, and we're going to go all the way back to 0. And now we're back at 0. Let's take a look at the CMY color mixing. So CMY stands for cyan, magenta, and yellow. We're going to take a look at cyan right now. This is cyan at full intensity. We're going to drop it back to 0. It's a very smooth drop for the CMY filters on here. We're going to bring up magenta. Magenta at full. And magenta back down to 0. So you can really see how smooth the CMY filters are built into VSHOW's S711 Buddha. Now let's take a look at yellow. There's your yellow. And of course you can mix the CMY with the color wheel as well to make thousands and thousands of different colors with this. You can also mix CTO with it. That's going to make a different color. So there's a lot of options as far as colors go with the S711 Buddha. Let's take a look at the rotating Gobo wheel. So the rotating Gobo wheel contains glass gobos. This is your first one. This is your second one, a breakup. This is your third one. It's a bunch of dots or glitter. This is your fourth one, and we're going to focus on it. It's a really nice breakup pattern. Here's another breakup. This one's kind of cool. It's very three-dimensional because it has shading. It's a bunch of what looks like broken up ice cubes. And this is your last glass gobo, and it's basically a rippled piece of glass. It makes for a very interesting design. You can, of course, do shake as well. And you can do a scroll. And you can scroll from clockwise or counterclockwise. Let's go ahead and hit this with the color wheel so we can really see what this looks like. You can also rotate these gobos. That's why it's called a rotating gobo wheel. So let's go ahead and rotate it. You can rotate clockwise or counterclockwise, as well as adjust the speed of the rotation. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the static gobos. We do have a reducer, so this makes your spot even smaller. This is your first static gobo. We're going to go ahead and focus. A bunch of dots, a linear line, some interesting pattern, some grading. This looks like camouflage to me. And you can also do shake as well. Now we're going to do a scroll. You can do counterclockwise or clockwise, and you can also control the speed of the scroll. We're going to take a look at the iris function, which I think is great on this. So this is your electronic iris, and you can cut down your spot to that size. You can also program it to pulse as well and adjust the speed of the pulse. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Prism. So this is a quad facet prism or 4-facet prism, and it's going to make your gobos look like this. You can also do a prism rotation, clockwise or counterclockwise, and just kind of cycle through your gobos. It makes really interesting designs, as you can see. We're now going to take a look at the super smooth zoom on the S711. So this is the smallest you can get your spot diameter using both the small Gobo wheel as well as the zoom function. And we're going to zoom to its widest, which is over 50 degrees, because this is a wash light. As you can see, it goes way out of frame. but you can also see how smooth this is too. So the zoom is really smooth on VSHOW's S711 Buddha. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the focus. The focus is also smooth on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the focus on here, which is also smooth. So I have a static gobo on, it's out of focus. We're going to go ahead and focus it in. Now it's in focus, very sharp. And now it's out of focus. Let's go ahead and take a look at the two frost filters that are included with the S711. So this is frost filter 1. These are great for washes. That's frost filter 1. Now let's check out frost filter 2. Now you can combine both of these and create an ultimate wash that's going to be super smooth. So let's bring up frost 1 and frost 2, and now we have a super smooth wash. However, it is going to get a lot dimmer because now you have two filters, so you're gonna have to bring up your dimmer on this in order to see any sort of brightness. Let's go ahead and take a look at the CRI. So CRI stands for Color Render Index. Right now we are at 70 raw, which means pretty poor, and that is the default for this light because it's not really made for studios. However, they did include a filter that bumps it up to 90, so now we're at 90, we're at 0 or 70, 90, 70. So as you can see, there is a difference in the color render, and one's going to give you more accurate and flattering skin tones as well as colors. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strobe and see how high we can get the frame rate on this. So right now we're at the slowest. And that is the fastest. And the fastest is actually pretty nauseating. I would say it's over 20 hertz. So the strobe on this is exceptionally well. It's doing its job. It's very disorienting at the highest level. They do also have some built-in strobe macros. The higher up the channel you go. So here's one of the strobe macros, which is creating a variable strobe. Alright, so let's go ahead and check out the coolest part of this light fixture, which is framing. We have cut down. So here's cut down 1. As you can see, the framing super smooth. Here's cut down 2. And I'm just bringing these up to 100% just to give you guys an idea. Here's cut 1. Here's cut 2. Cut left. Cut left 2. Cut right. Cut right 2. And of course you can use this to create a rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. Right now we have a square. You can use different cut downs to create different patterns. You can do different angles of a square. You can create triangles. Pretty much whatever you want to do, you can do with the cutting system on this. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the cut rotation. So this is a 90-degree rotation. And that's the full rotation of it from 0 to 100%. If you enjoyed watching this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave them down below. I do answer all comments and questions as quickly as I can. If stuff like this interests you, go ahead and subscribe to my channel at Theatrically Jerry. I review a lot of light fixtures, atmospherics, DJ equipment, stage lighting, you name it, I review it. So if that stuff interests you, follow my channel. And of course, thank you guys for watching.